So welcome to the 2021 Canaltown Virtual Book Fest. I'm Sherry Bronker, and on behalf of the Canaltown Book Fest Committee, I'd like to acknowledge and thank some of our sponsors, the Dover Public Library, the Bibliophile Bookstore, Tuscarawas County Literacy Coalition, the Canaltown, or the Canal Dover Association, the Canaltown Book Festival itself. The topic of this panel is going to be book marketing tips, and we're pleased to have three very experienced authors, Melinda Fago, I'm going to say this wrong all over again, Falgu, Eileen Tromo, and Donald Fiersmith. They'll be sharing their thoughts and insights with us. But before I introduce them, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. The participants who are viewing this, and I will be admitting people as we go through this, the participants who are viewing will be muted when they come in and have their video turned off. All participants are welcome to ask questions by typing them in the chat box. If you're not aware of where the chat box is, if you just move your mouse, it'll show up at the bottom and you'll see chat. And if you click on that, your chat box will show up. We ask that you put all your questions in there, and at the end, we'll have plenty of time for question and answers with everybody. Each of our three authors will speak approximately 10 minutes. And lastly, the panel is going to be recorded and will be available for viewing on the BookFest event page and on YouTube. So to get started, Melinda Falgu is our first participant. And so a little bit about her is with 5 kids, 4 jobs, 3 dogs, a 2-car driveway, and 1 very patient husband. Melinda is an author whose works have appeared in Reader's Digest, Writer's Journal, in the Harlequin Mini Round Robin ebooks, The Rancher and the Rose, and Thin Ice. Other works have also won awards in competitions around the world, including the New York Book Festival annual competition, the Oshima International Handmade Picture Book Competition, Writers Unlimited annual literacy and annual literary competition, Alfred Hitchcock Mystery Magazine Mysterious Photo Contest, and Doubleday Book Club's Quoth the Raven contest. So join me in welcoming Melinda.
Well, good morning, everyone, and a great big thank you to all of the organizers for the Canaltown Book Festival. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. So, as Cherie explained, I am sort of a hybrid author. I am both an indie author, but I have also been published traditionally. That being said, I am responsible for just about every single marketing thing that I have to do to promote my books. I don't have a vast disposal of staff at my fingertips to be able to promote me or my work. So it's all up to me. The good news is that anybody who is willing to put in a little bit of hard work, and sometimes a lot of bit of hard work, can do an excellent job in promoting both themselves and their work. So what I'm going to do today, since we have an abbreviated time to share things with you, because believe me, I could go on all day, is to give you some things to put into your toolkit to help you promote you and your work. So the first thing that I'd like to bring to everybody's attention, and most of you have probably heard about this, is probably the single most important thing that an author can have to promote themselves and their work, and it doesn't cost much at all. Because if you're like me, you're kind of on a budget. So you should have, whenever you appear at a live event, or if you're selling a book, is to slip it into your book so that it can promote other works that you may have, is the handy dandy bookmark. Now, I designed this bookmark using Vistaprint. I got, I think, 250 of them for about $10. It's a pretty sound investment, and it displays a lot about me and my works all in one little nifty package. So branding is really important as an author, something that'll make you stand out in the reader's mind and make them remember you the next time they go looking for a book. So I publish under the imprint Wagging Tails Press, and this is our little icon right here with the little dog. You can see it behind me. Everything that I print has this little guy somewhere on it. And it just helps to have something consistent, something that people will see over and over again and relate you to it. So you're easy and at the forefront of their mind. This also gives me an opportunity to display all the different awards that I've received, my work has received. And it lets people know that no matter what title they're purchasing from my imprint, they're getting something that's worth the pages it's printed on. But what I really like about this little guy is that when I open it up, just like a book, it displays both the covers and the ISBNs of all of my work. And if that weren't enough, I get to put new releases right there on the back so that people can see what's coming up from my line. Very cheap, very handy, very important to have. And if you are working on a budget, it is probably one of the best things that you can invest in. Another item, also from Vistaprint at a very reasonable cost. And a lot of times you can catch a coupon, so you can even get like 250 to 500 of these for $5.99 to $8.99. Business cards. Don't leave home without them. Stick them in your wallet. Put them in your car. If you're like me and you don't carry a purse, because I always leave them places, stick them in your back pocket so that whenever you are at the grocery store, whenever you are at a kids sporting event, as that stuff starts opening up again, you have these to hand out to people. They're small, they're easy to carry. Make sure you have one of those. Now, when I go to an event, I don't just rely on my book sales for income. I also do presentations. I do them at libraries. I do them at schools. I even do private events. And so I have a brochure. Now, you can get these printed at online. They have next day flyers. Vistaprint will do them. Or you can do this at home. This was made on Microsoft Publisher. This has all my contact information on the front. And as you open it up, it tells a little bit about me, but it also lists all the different types of programming that I offer. Some of it is catered specifically towards school students, teaching about the writing process, what it takes to make a book. It also has classes and programs for folks just like you who are looking to take that brilliant idea in their head and actually get it between the pages of a book and get that story out there to share. Because as human beings, that's truly what connects us all, is story. I printed these out on my printer at home. I usually take about 50 of them with me when I go to a live event. When teachers and librarians who love to attend events see this, they always grab them, and it explains everything they need to know. I even have a link on my webpage that lets them know where they can get money to fund author visits to their schools. So that's the brochure. Oriental Trading is a great place to come up with easy and inexpensive promotional items to draw people to your table. A lot of authors will put a bowl of candy out on the table, but I'm not so big on the candy because I want people not just to grab the candy, but I want them to remember me later on. After candy, 5 seconds, I'm out of their mind. So for $19.99, I got 50 of these little pens that have my website printed on them. They're nice little pens, little click it and stick it. So that's something that you can also include to help market your brand. But then what do we do when we want to sell beyond the book? You upsell. So what we have here is I created these gift sets. So for the cost of $2 for the acrylic box, I printed this at home. This is simply cardstock that was ordered from Amazon. I got a ream of 500 for $12, and that will last me forever. And then, of course, my book. And then you can get 2 pounds of the colored raffia to put inside for inexpensive. And then think of something that connects with your book, something that's going to increase the value of your book. So for me, this is 10 little crawfish. 10 little crawfish swimming in the swamp. One thought they heard some zydeco and stopped to dance and stomp. 9 little crawfish went strolling through the quarter. One took him a riverboat because that way was shorter. Now, I'm not there all the time to read my book to people, but I've got this adorable little crawfish pacifier holder that is included with the baby board book. And it makes a nice little package, and it's great to sell as birthday gifts, as Easter gifts, as Christmas gifts, or other holiday gifts. So you can package yourself as more than just a book. Now we get down to the nitty-gritty of it. What do I do? How can I increase my sales? Well, you can attend book events. You can hope that your books will sell like crazy on Amazon. But I'll be honest with you, as much as we would love our babies to fly off the shelves all by themselves, strictly on their merit alone, books don't sell books. People sell books. It's that connection. But how do I make that connection go further, you ask? Well, I have a few handy dandy tools that you can find and access online for free to help you expand your outreach. If you're attending a particular event, for instance, we're here at the Canal Town Book Festival. Were this a live event, what I would do as an attending author is I would do before I attend the event is use the librarytechnology.org webpage to see all the area libraries that are in the vicinity and ask if I can do a story time. There's also freemaptools.com. This will allow you to plug in a particular zip code, and you can include all zip codes that are within the specific radius of that zip code to find schools and libraries that might fall within, say, 25 miles of your event that you might have an opportunity to go visit. And then nces.ed.gov is a fabulous resource tool that will allow you to look up all public and private schools within a given state. And you can narrow it down using that zip code radius map to find schools in the area that might be willing to host an author visit. And with that being said, I'll turn it back over to Cherie, and she'll introduce our next speaker.
Thank you so much, Melinda. That was just a wealth of great information. I was taking notes hurriedly so that I could get it all down and watching your time too at the same time. But that was wonderful. So our next speaker, unfortunately, there must have been some technical issues with our next speaker. So we're going to jump ahead to our final speaker. And if we're not able to get our second speaker back in, I'm going to ask Melinda and Donald to each take another 5 minutes to tell us even more great stuff. So for now, what I'm going to do is we're going to move on to Donald, and I am going to introduce Donald here. So Donald Firesmith is a multi-prize winning author of speculative fiction, specifically science fiction, fantasy, paranormal, occult, and horror. He has published 7 software and system engineering books via a traditional publisher, and he has published 5 novels, an anthology of short stories as an indie author. After spending 40 years developing large, complex, software-intensive system, he retired a little over 1 year ago to become a full-time author. He is currently working with the narrator of Hellholes 3 to Hell and Back audiobook and is completing the manuscript of Hellholes 4, A Slave's Revenge. He is also completing a book titled Free and Low-Cost Marketing for Indie Authors, a draft of which can now be downloaded for free at his author's website at http://donaldfiresmith.com/free dash and dash low and low dash. I think we're going to have.
Just go to the main website. You can find it under nonfiction.
It will be under your website, which we do have listed on our page. So welcome, Donald.
Well, thank you. I'm very glad to be here, part of this. As was just mentioned, I have been putting together what I've learned about marketing my own books into this nonfiction book, Free and Low Cost Marketing for Indie Authors. It is about 80 to 90% done. And what I'm doing is I'm allowing people to download a PDF version of it for free up until the time when I finish it. And then I'm going to start selling it with my other books. And today what I want to do is just give you a list of all the things that you might possibly want to do to market yourself. These are the different things that are in that book. I don't really have a lot of time to go into detail on a lot of them, but I did want to at least show them to you. So I'm going to share my screen, and right now you should be seeing a screen with a list on the left-hand side of the screen and the cover of the book on the right-hand side of the screen. Hopefully you've got that. Is that Melinda, can you wave if you see it? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so these are in alphabetical order, not in grouped together. Some of these things you do early on, some later. Every author should put together a short bio of themselves. You can use that in a lot of different places. Melinda mentioned the branding with her logo. Every author should, come up with a logo or a picture, a set of colors, something that's consistent to make it clear that these are your books and who you are. She also mentioned business cards. Another thing that's trivially easy, when you have your email, create an email signature block at the bottom of your email that will list maybe your most important books, your author website, stuff of that nature. I found it's very useful to do author interviews. There's lots of blog writers that will let you do interviews with them. A lot of times you can do this for free. Sometimes there are places out there that will charge you 10, 15, 20 bucks to do an interview with them. You should have some nice photographs of yourself for going in the back of the book on your literature and stuff like that. There are places, book blogs that will do an author spotlight, which is essentially a picture of you, a little bio, a little bit about your books. So it's advertising you as an author as opposed to advertising specific books. Everyone should have a website and also web pages. So you'll have web pages on social media like Facebook and other social media sites. Facebook and Goodreads is a good place for those. I do have an author website. That's really, I think, useful to have. Awards. There are a ton of different awards out there that you can apply for. Some are very difficult to win. Some of them are relatively easy to place in. Some of them are prestigious, some of them not so prestigious. But you can go out and you can compete in these award contests for somewhere between $15 and $75, depending on what contest it is. One of the key things is to try to get yourself on bestseller lists, extremely difficult for major ones. But one of the things you can do, for example, on Amazon is if you publish in a very specific genre where there's not an awful lot of competition, and you do an awful lot of marketing with your book launch, you can end up getting into the top 100, or better yet, in the top 20 on Amazon. And that will get you on the first page when people search for that type of book in Amazon. Book advertising posters. I have a rather huge poster, maybe 3 foot wide and about 7 foot tall, that has pictures of my books that I take with me when I do presentations. Book blasts are typically part of a blog tour. This would be a one-day sort of advertisement of your book on some website. Book blogs. The interesting issue here is trying to find the appropriate book blogs, because there's a lot of book blogs out there that no one reads. And then there are book blogs that are, for example, very strongly oriented towards romance novels. And if you're doing military hard sci-fi, that's probably not the great place for you to try to advertise. You should put book buy links in on your website so that people can just click directly on them. So for example, on my website and in social media, I have buttons for Amazon and Kobo and Barnes and Noble and Ingram and so on. I put the book cataloging and print data block in the back of my books. This is for the librarians. Librarians have to come up with this information for when they buy your book and put it in their library. If you give them this information, they will love you because you're saving them a lot of work. There are various book clubs out there that you can try to get your book into. Once again, some of them are extremely difficult, others are easier to get in. Book contests, book covers. Everyone says don't judge a book by its cover. Don't believe that at all. The book cover is probably the single most important thing to get a reader to learn more about your book. So if the cover looks sort of, cheesy or, homemade, it's not going to be good. What you need to do, that book covers is the one thing that I think is most important for an author to spend money on. Book distributors. I go through Smashwords to distribute my books to Kobo and Apple iBooks and Google and a bunch of other places like that. I go with Ingram Spark to distribute my books to libraries. Book events, I print up some flyers, putting out excerpts of your book, short, brief things so that people can get hooked in your book. That's good. Book giveaways. I have this book here is part of the giveaway for this book fest. So if you go and you sign up, I'm going to send a copy of that book out. Book information sheets. If you are trying to find an agent, or you want to sell your book to a boutique publisher or whatever, having a single sheet of paper with appropriate information about your book is one of the things that they will expect to get along with your cover letter. Having a book launch party and having a team of people who are all set for your book launch, those are useful things to have. Setting your book pricing so that it's reasonable or free to begin with. So for example, in my Hellhole series, my first book's free. And I will usually start my books out discounted price so that I can get more reviews and get some buzz about the book. And then I increase the price later on. Book promo pictures, there's a lot of things on the web. I'm trying to think about how to best say this. You'll have pictures where you'll have your book as part of a banner ad, for example. and that your book might be in 3D, or, you know, just having multiple books there. So getting those kinds of promo pictures of your book's good. Doing book readings at libraries, at schools is also useful. Book reviews. I think it's actually very critical to get a bunch of book reviews, especially early on when your book first comes out. I use a couple places for book reviews. The first place I use is Voracious Readers Only. That's a group, that's a website and an organization that hooks up readers with books that they get for free in exchange for leaving an honest review. Excuse me. I find that about 1 reader out of 5 will actually leave a review. But if you go out, they get a lot of readers, and you can get 20, 30, 40 reviews on your book on Amazon and Goodreads pretty fast. There are some other ones out there, but Voracious Readers Only is the one that I find has been most successful. Doing book signings, book trailers. Book trailers are an interesting thing. A lot of people like videos, and so they're more useful in one sense than just banner ads. On the other hand, not every author is able to create a professional looking book trailer, and they vary greatly in price and in duration. So you can get a 15, 20-second trailer for, maybe $10, $15 on the internet. Whereas if you want a really nice one that's a minute or longer, you may end up paying upwards to $100 for that. Character interviews. I find character interviews are a lot more interesting to read than author interviews, and some of the book bloggers do this. Basically, it's an interview, but you're interviewing one of the main characters in your book instead of interviewing the author. So the author does both the character interview, the interview questions, and the character answers. There's conferences and book fests like this one. You can do direct emails. I use MailChimp for mine. I have about 2,000 or 3,000 people who receive a monthly email from me on my books. The one big problem with emails is as your list of receivers gets large, it starts getting expensive. So they typically charge you more the more people you're sending your emails out to. And naturally, if you're going to do emails, you're going to need an email list. I have several different email lists depending on who I'm sending it to. I do put out these newsletters. Oh, group promotions. You can get together with a bunch of other authors and do a group promotion where you're each promoting not only your own book, but the books of the other authors in the group. With these book blogs, you can also do guest blog posts. I tend not to do that very often just because it takes a lot more effort to write a specific blog post for a blog. You can have a marketing campaign where you actually write down all of the different things that you're going to do and organize and prioritize it. And that gets into the idea of a marketing plan. There's also a bunch of metrics that you can collect so you can keep track of how much you spend, how much response you get, how many clicks on your links, and so on. You can have a marketing to-do list is very helpful for me because, like I said, there's a lot of things you can do. You can't do all of them at once. You got to save time for actual writing the books. So you need to prioritize things, and having a to-do list helps greatly. Networking with other authors. I find that there's a lot of times authors can help each other out. I also have a set of fans who are very, very useful to me for things like being beta readers and advertising me on their social media. Praise quotes. One of the things I think is very important is to not just have good reviews, but have good reviews from people who might be influential. So this would be other authors, or this would be like Kirkus or Midwestern Book Review. Some of the big ones like that cost a lot of money. But what I found is if you have a network of authors, you can get them to read your book and give you praise quotes, at least some of them will. And so then you can put that in the front of your book and you can put it on your advertising where they'll give you 1 or 2 sentences saying something nice about your book. And then you can say, that's so-and-so author of such and such books. Press releases and press kits aren't quite the same thing. Press releases are sort of a one-page thing that you can send out to various press sources. Press kits, as if you get this copy of the manuscript from me, goes into more detail as to the additional things you'd have there, cover sheets and so on. Melinda did a great job there on promotional items. I think that's a very cool idea of what she did. Another thing from a marketing standpoint is record keeping. We only have so much money and so much time to invest. If you don't keep track of all of your different advertising and stuff like that and what's effective and what isn't, you'll find that you're not being effective with your limited funds. School presentations, that's something I'm going to be I was just getting ready to do school presentations when COVID hit. So I'm chomping at the bit to have the kids in class again. And another thing that you can look into is optimizing your author website so that it comes up better in search engines. So that's 58 different things that you can learn more about, and you can decide which of these are useful for you and which ones you want to try and which ones you might want to save for later. But anyway, all of those things are things you can either do yourself for free or do for less than 50 bucks, $75, that kind of thing. And that's it for me. So I'm going to stop sharing, and it's back to the next person.
Okay, thank you, Donald. Actually, if you have anything else you wanted to say, you wanted to take about 5 more minutes, please feel free to go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to turn over to Melinda and let her take another 5 minutes. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, why don't you let Melinda take 5 minutes, and I'll give me 5 minutes to decide what to spend my 5 minutes on.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you. Yeah, Melinda, would you like to go ahead?
Well, that was fabulous, Donald. Thanks so much for sharing. I think we kind of like must have secretly by osmosis absorbed each other's presentations. We kind of were kind of hand in hand on covering the same things. But that should go to tell everybody how important the things that we both mentioned are. That if you want to be more than just a local author, these are the things that you have to consider when you're designing your marketing plan. Treat yourself as a business because you are in effect selling yourself and your books to the great wide world. And that can be a fantastic thing. And we want to see you all succeed at it. I don't know about you, Donald, but I know that in my experience, authors are a warm and giving community, and we all tend to like to see each other succeed. It's why we do events like this, is to share what we've learned in the hopes that that helps you guys get to the next step in your career. Some of the things that I wanted to mention, Donald brought up book blogs. How do you find book blogs? Well, there is a fantastic book blog listing that has a wide gamut of different genres, children's, science fiction, romance, mystery, thriller, suspense, etc., etc. You can find that, and I will put this in the chat, bookreviewdirectory.com/book-blogger-list. It's a wonderfully long list of different book review sites that and blog sites that you can look in. You still have to do a little homework, read the little snippet for each one to see if it might be a fit for your book, and then contact them. But that being said, I will say this. Most book bloggers are more open to reviewing your book or blogging about your book if you establish a relationship with them first. Follow their blogs, get familiar with what types of blog posts they do so that it is less of a cold call for them and it feels like, oh no, this is a friend that I'm doing a favor for. Relationships is what the game is all about. So be sure that you go that little extra mile and establish a rapport before you just say, hey, here's my book, it's great, will you review it? Will you blog about it? Make sure that you take that little extra effort and establish a relationship with them first. Donald mentioned banners. Banners are great. You can go overboard with having too many banners at an event. So what you really want to do is, I tend to concentrate when I bring a banner of whatever my latest title is. And you can get, again, if you are on a budget, there's a great site. I've always had really great experiences with banners on thecheap.com. You can get yourself a wide variety sizes of banners for them for really, really cheap. And there's so much more we could tell you, but Cherie's kind of wiggling at me. So I know we're running out of time. So do check the chat. I posted.
We're going to go through some questions too, and thank you so much for all the great links that you're putting in the chat. That is great stuff. And as I've mentioned in the chat, we are recording this, so you'll be able to go back to it and listen to everybody's advice over and over again. So Donald, did you want to come back on and say anything for a few minutes before we go to questions, or do you want to just go to questions?
Yeah, I think we can go to questions.
All right, let me go back up here to the start and so I'll ask you my question. As I'm a librarian in my other life. So Melinda, you mentioned so much about going to libraries and doing speaking engagements with them. So let me ask you, are those profitable for you? I know some libraries pay. So are the libraries paying you to speak and then you're able to sell your books? And if so, what do you actually make money on at those events?
Yes. Yes. Yes, some libraries have very limited budgets, and I fully understand that. But again, it goes back to what I just mentioned about establishing relationships. Sometimes you wonderful librarians, really, you guys do the lion's share of the work, connecting readers with the works that are out there. And occasionally God smiles upon you guys and gives you grants. And you use those grants to look for quality programming. And if I've established a relationship with you, then you're much more likely to say, hey, our summer reading program's coming up. We have $800 to spend on, bringing, an author in to do an event. Are you interested? Are you going to be in the area? Yes, of course I am. So in fact, that is what I'm doing this summer. I have been
Great.
requested 3 summers in a row to participate in different libraries' summer reading programs. And I'll do a circuit tour of about 4 libraries within a given system and do events. So I'll not only get paid for that event, but then they give me the opportunity to sell my books
Right.
at the event as well. And I do track afterwards. I also usually see an uptick in sales. So even if people don't
Great.
purchase my book right away, they do it later.
That is fantastic. That answers my question perfectly. Now I'm going to go down through here. There's so much good information in here that I'm having difficulty finding everybody's questions. Okay, so one of the questions was how or where do you find book blasts on Google and Facebook?
A book blast is really sort of a one-off, one-day promo, as opposed to like a book blog tour where you're going to have multiple blogs and it's going to last over multiple days. Blast sort of is the idea of either one blog doing one thing about your book on one day, or better yet, if you can get 4 or 5 to all do the promo on the same day. So it's just sort of an idea of concentrating and blasting out the information. So that mostly then takes you back to how do you know about the book blogs? And Melinda gave a great answer there as far as, you know, a list to look at. The other things is I found some nice groups that tend to connect authors with the bloggers.
That'd be great.
Silver Dagger Tours. I've got a relationship now with the main person who does that because she's done tours for me for my books in the past. That's an interesting, that's just one example of companies out there that hook authors together with bloggers. The problem that I find with some of them is some of those companies want more money to do this than I think the value is that you get from them. So you have to be sort of careful on your money, deciding whether or not it's going to work. And there are so much competition out there now. There's been a lot of new companies that have just come out in the last 6 months. It's hard to know whether or not they've got a large stable of bloggers. It's the same sort of thing when they will advertise your book on their mailing list and on their website. Some of these sites are so new, you have no idea whether or not when they say they're going to mail out, an advertisement of your book, whether it's going to 20,000 people or 15.
So some of that is probably just a little bit of trial and error, and you should expect that, you know, you're going to make some mistakes and you just learn as you go, and then you go back to the ones that were profitable for you.
There's that, and then it gets back to the networking with other authors. You know, you can ask other authors what their experience has been, what worked for them and what didn't.
Okay.
I actually came across doing that exact same thing as networking with other authors at events. Came across a wonderful company called Authors XP. If you are looking to build an email list, they offer these fabulous events. Primarily is more geared toward if you write romance or anything in the mystery, suspense, or thriller genre. She holds regular events throughout the year, and you piggyback with other authors who have signed up in the same genre, and you agree to do a giveaway of a book. And for the cost of one book, you are exposed to a plethora of new subscribers. Now, I have spoken with a lot of authors who have used that, and they have said that, yes, it definitely builds the email list very quickly. It exposes you to a lot of people that you may otherwise, fall through the cracks. Yes, some of the subscribers do fall off a little bit after a while, but for the experience as a whole, it's well worth it. And that's Authors XP. And you can just take a look at the site and see if that might be something that might help you out.
Okay, that's fantastic. The
And
next question. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Follow on that. One of the interesting issues that you run into with mailing lists is it's fairly easy to get, add more people to your mailing list, but you need to prune it. Most of the companies that do the mailing for you, where you supply the list and they shoot it out to everybody, like MailChimp, they charge you based on how many emails you're sending out. They have it, grouped into categories. And what I find is if I'm sending out mailings, say once a month, every 9 months to a year, I want to go back and go over my mailing list and see who are the people who are consistently not opening the emails at all. Then I prune those out, and hopefully I get down to the next level down where the cost decreases for me. So, keeping track of your mailing list and finding out what works, what doesn't. So that was, a thought.
Okay, thank you. So one of the other questions we had, and Donald, you'd mentioned your website. So one of the questions they had was, do you use a website creator? Do you do this yourself? So just a little input on, if an author wants to build a website, what do you think they should do?
Do you want it free, or do you want to make it fancy?
I think
do you want to have a monthly subscription?
Yeah, to both kind of things. Like, I guess to start off, what do the both of you do? And then, what do you know about free versus paid?
I started out, since I've spent decades in the software business and building informational websites, among other things. I created my first couple of websites completely from scratch, writing my own HTML code and stuff like that. I don't recommend doing that. More recently, what I've done is I've gone with WordPress, and they have all these different templates that you can choose from, and they give you quite a bit of flexibility to make it, look however you want. And so I highly recommend them. There are some others out there, but lots of people do WordPress, and there's lots of information on the web about how to use it effectively and so on. And it's not that difficult. It's fairly straightforward. And there's lots of little add-ons for it, where you can keep statistics on the people who are visiting your website, what countries they're from, and so WordPress is where I would go. And I use, I can't think of it off the top of my, there's lots of people who will support websites out there. I do not, although I have my own computers, I do not host my own website. I use one of the standard hosting services. You can check around and find, which ones are cheapest. They all pretty much give you the same thing. And unless you are allowing people to download tons and tons of data, one hosting service isn't really going to be providing much more than any others. Okay. One last thought. Make copies of your website. If things crash and you do not have a copy of your website, and I had this happen to me once many years ago, recreating your website from scratch is a lot of time.
Yes.
Oh, and speaking of time, one last thought. Save some time to actually write. You could very easily spend every waking minute, trying to market yourself. And I think most of us got into this because we felt the need to write, not that we decided that this was how we were going to make tons of money. The vast majority of people, the vast majority of authors make less than 10,000 a year. And, a lot of times you're not making minimum wage if you consider the number of hours you're doing it.
Right.
So I market to get it out to more people. I market to try to recoup some of the money that goes into it. I don't write yet as a profession.
And I think a lot of our viewers are right there in that same situation. I did want to ask just briefly before I'll go to Melinda in just a second, so we do have a lot of people on here that, we've heard throughout our virtual program are not that tech savvy. So in that case, what would you suggest for someone who's just not even comfortable with something like WordPress?
You can hire people to put a website up for you, either individually. You can find people on Fiverr, for example, who will do that for you relatively cheap. There are companies out there that support authors. There's a bunch of companies out there, and they will, for money, put a website together for you. The issue here, though, in my mind, is a website shouldn't be static. Okay, so you create a website, fine, but you're going to have new books. You're going to want to have news. You're going to want to have your own blog associated with your website. So someone has to maintain it.
Right.
And I would suggest that even if you're not tech savvy, learn at least enough to maintain it. Like I said, WordPress, once it's set up, is fairly trivial to change. It's getting easier all the time. And it doesn't make sense for you to try to find somebody else to make these minor little updates to your website all the time. You want to just get in and do it yourself, and it's easy.
Okay, thank you. Melinda?
What you see is what you get. Platforms are out there. Wix is one, DoodleKit is one, and it's pretty much a click and drag. Wix is actually even more user-friendly than DoodleKit. I have sites that are on both platforms. And even if you're not tech savvy, even if you can barely point and click a mouse, if you can point and click a mouse.
Yeah, I've used Wix and it's incredibly simple.
So that would be my suggestion for anyone who is not tech savvy. Also, please check out our giveaways, the opportunity to connect with new titles. Check out the Canal Towns Facebook giveaway page and do what the authors ask. And then as far as saving time to write, I actually came up with a fairly novel concept just within this past year, and it's actually starting to really work for me, is I developed an internship proposal, and I have presented it to area universities and colleges. Awesome. To their marketing departments, their PR departments, because most colleges do require their juniors and seniors to do an internship, and it has to be structured a very certain way in order that you are not taking advantage of the student and that you are within legal guidelines. But I have done that. That's actually one of the presentations that I do, is how to develop such a thing. So do think about college interns to do the grunt work of all of this social media marketing for you.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm 50. I know some about, all the stuff that's out there, but between, Pinterest, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, oh my gosh, there's just so many hours in the day. And these guys are the social media generation.
Mm-hmm.
See if they can work for you. So that would be a suggestion if you're trying to find a way of how to promote, but yet still have time to write.
Yeah. Back to if you're uncomfortable, like, you were just saying with technology, your college students are great with that. So if you're afraid to build your own web page or you don't even know how to use WordPress, there's lots of college students out there who would gladly earn a few bucks to help you do that too. All right.
Speaking of the media, one thing else, another possible source, there are lots of people out there in India and Malaysia and similar places who do this kind of media stuff as a service. And because they are in India or wherever, it tends to be dirt cheap comparatively. And a lot of these people are reasonably good in English and are like college students and things of that nature. So, and if it doesn't work out, you haven't lost a lot of money, kind of thing. So that's another place where you can save some money potentially.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both for just a wealth of information. And I personally can't wait to go back and just like copy down everything that you've said. It's just been fantastic, especially for any of us just starting out on trying to market. This is just invaluable to all of us. So I thank you so much for coming today and presenting to us. So I did want to say that coming up here at 2:30 is going to be our final, well, not our final presentation, but our feature presentation, and that's going to be with Amanda Flower. Just a bit about that. Amanda Flower will discuss her author journey, especially how she ended up writing Amish mysteries and share news about her latest novels and those coming up. Amanda Flower, a USA Today best-selling and Agatha Award-winning author of over 35 cozy mystery novels, started her writing career in elementary school when she read a story she wrote to her 6th grade class and had the class in stitches with her description of being stuck on top of a Ferris wheel. She knew at that moment she'd found her calling of making people laugh with her words. In order to be an author, Amanda is a former librarian with 15 years of experience in Northeast Ohio. So I hope that you all take just a short break and then be back here at 2:30 to join us for Amanda Flower. Thank you both again. Look forward to learning even more from you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.